Ahoy there, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another ship fitting video for Eve Echoes. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at another one of the mid-game battlecruisers, the Tech VII Minmatar Cyclone. Now we've recently talked about the Cyclone 2 Command, which is an absolutely incredible ship all the way up at Tech level 10, and that got me thinking, how far can you push the Tech level 7 variant? And I then discovered all the way to Tech level 10. It is a fantastic ship that is very versatile. It is going to carry you quite comfortably from Tech level 7 when you can first unlock it, all the way through to including Tech level 10 content, and you can fit it multiple different ways for different things. In today's video I'm going to show you how to fit it for solo ratting, just making some good ISK using a nice, cheap, readily available ship that I think costs like less than 100 million to buy the hull, and then the fittings themselves aren't all that much more, to be completely fair. We're going to keep the costs down, keep it simple, and showcase how this beastly battering ram of a ship can go all the way to Tech level 10. Anyway, if you do enjoy this video, please let me know by hitting a like on it, sub to the channel for all things Eve Echoes and Eve Online, ding the notification bell, and if you want to be supremely awesome and help support the channel, come join me on Patreon. It's as little as £1 a month. You can get your name in the credits of each video, and you can earn some really cool exclusive merchandise. Anyway, all that said and done, let's jump right in then to talking about the Minmatar Cyclone battlecruiser. You folks by now should know that the Minmatar Republic pretty much contains all of my favourite ships, bar a few notable exceptions. Interestingly though, if we go into the Minmatar Republic ship tree while I'm talking here and look at the battlecruiser line, the Cyclone has never historically been one of my favourites. I've always really enjoyed the Hurricane and the Tornado, but the Cyclone, that other third one named after a type of tropical storm, has never really done it for me. I just didn't overly like the look of it. Missiles weren't something I was overly keen on. Well, ultimately that all changed with Eve Echoes recently. Thank you Frosty Jack for showing me the Cyclone 2 Command. Now I am loving the Cyclone at Tech level 7 as well. Now if you are interested in learning about the Cyclone 2 Command, I will put a link on screen now and in the description down below to take you through to that video and see how absolutely insanely badass this ship is. I will even put a QR code on screen now as well so you can have a look at that particular fitting from that video. Look at this, I'm retroactively adding the QR codes. And then we're going to have a look today then at the Tech VII Cyclone. This is one of the first battle cruisers available. It's the equivalent of the Hurricane prototype, the Harbinger prototype, and the basic Ferox. There aren't many battle cruisers available at Tech level 7, but here it is, the Cyclone. And what a ship it is. Let's jump into having a look at it. Now, I will still maintain I'm personally not a huge fan of how this looks. It looks a little bit like a battering ram crossed with a cigar. I don't think it's a bad looking ship, it's just not particularly my kind of aesthetic. It does look really cool with the Angel Veteran and the Angel NCO cores, of course it does, as does the Capsuleer Day 1. We looked at some of these in the Cyclone Command video as well. The fact that it gets the absolutely badass Grimace skin as well. Man, I miss that skin so badly. I really hope they bring it back one day and we get proper Crimson Harvest. Also, the air skin, readily available, buy it in the shop. Anyway, enough of how it looks. How does this thing actually fly? Well, attributes and fittings, we have a fitting profile here of one drone tube that we can ignore because we have no bonuses for it. You probably haven't trained skills for it, and quite frankly, it's going to give us, what, 30 DPS? So we can ignore that drone tube, small or medium drones, and instead look at the rest of it. 6 high slots. This is a little bit smaller than some of the other battlecruisers, which will have 7 high slots. Fortunately, the bonuses for the Cyclone actually kind of make up for that. Is this going to be the most powerful of the missile battlecruisers you can fly? No, you can get higher DPS scores and higher tanking scores, etc. out of things like the Drake and other ships as well, the different variants, like the Cyclone 2 Command. But for a Tech 7 ship, it is more than adequate, as we'll see in a moment. 3 mid slots, pretty standard for what you'd expect at this tech level and tonnage. Good amount of variety there for E-War. 5 low slots is pretty solid too. Gives us good versatility. We get to put in propulsion mods, weapon upgrades, and tanking modules happily within those 5 slots. 3 each of the rigs. I don't know why I even mention this in videos. If it's Tech 7 or higher, it probably has 3 rigs. I think there's only one type of ship I can think of that does not have 3 rigs at that level or higher. Cargo hold, 900 cubic meters, who cares? Defenses, 25,778. This is actually pretty low compared to some other battlecruisers. I've just finished recording a video on the Drake, for example, and I'm looking at the Drake's shield of like 10,000 and looking at the Cyclone's shield of 7,853 and thinking, wow, that's quite a drop. That said, it's still good for a Tech VII ship. If you're looking at that thinking, oh, that's lower than everything else, yes, because everything else is a higher tech level. This is a Tech level 7 ship that is actually pretty tanky. It will stay alive really well, as you'll see later, primarily in shields, middling armor, very low structure. Ultimately, this is going to be a shield tanked ship, as we'll see in a moment. Capacitors, 2,421 gigajoules with a max capacitor recharge rate of 11.46 gigajoules per second. I wish it had a 24,000 gigajoule capacitor. That would be insane. Ultimately though, that's good enough. It's not the best you can get at this tonnage even, at this tech level even, but it is solid. It will get the job done. Signature radius is 212.4, scan resolution 196, meaning you're a fairly large target, but smaller than most battlecruisers, with a fairly low scan resolution. 196 is actually quite low, and ultimately we can change that later on, as you'll see. When it comes to the flight velocity though, that's pretty good. 200 meters per second is not a particularly slow ship. It's, it's slower than some things, but it's a battlecruiser. For a battlecruiser, that flight velocity, the mass and the inertia actually gives us fairly good maneuverability. We're fairly nippy for a battlecruiser, and we can realign and sort of orbit quite tightly with that, which is going to be beneficial for us. Finally, warp speed of 2.7 astronomical units per second is standard. Looking at the trait descriptions, again here we have the roll bonus of 25% increase to medium missile torpedo flight velocity and the ability to fit command bursts. I don't see the point in fitting command bursts to a Cyclone. Ultimately, if you're in a fleet where command bursts are going to be used, chances are you have someone flying some kind of some form of command ship that gets bonuses, therefore they're going to do better. Ultimately, if you're looking to fly those later, yeah, start training the skills, but for the Cyclone itself, I'm not sure I'd ever really fit a command burst to it, except in the direst of situations where I'm in a fleet and literally no one else has a command ship. Anyway, the roll bonus, 25% medium missile torpedo flight velocity, this is actually a little bit disappointing when compared to the turret variants. If you were to look at the Hurricane or the Harbinger, for example, you'll see they get a 25% increase to their optimal range and to their accuracy fall-off, which ultimately results in a considerable boost to their range. 25% sounds like a lot, but it's just the flight velocity. If this were flight velocity and the flight time, it would be a much bigger boost in my opinion, and I do think that ultimately the Cyclone, the Drake, both of these could have some boosts to that roll bonus to give it just a little bit of range extra. I'm not saying it's a problem, I'm just saying it feels like the other ships get the better end of the deal here. Anyway, looking at the skill bonuses, we get bonuses from Advanced Medium Missile Torpedo upgrade, so if you're coming from cruisers like the Caracal or the Bellicose line, you've been training medium missiles, you need to have Advanced Medium Missile Torpedo upgrade. Heavily note on the upgrade there in order to make the most of this hull. Doing so will give you a 5% reduction to activation time and a 5% increase to the explosion velocity. Now, this basically means the activation time reduction means you're going to be launching far faster, 25% faster. That's where your increased damage comes from. The 5% increase per level, 25% at full training for the explosion velocity, helps you actually apply that damage even better to faster moving targets. This means that actually this will work really well at applying its damage, even against frigates and some of the faster cruisers out there, which is a big advantage that the Cyclone has over the Drake, which is kind of its Caldari equivalent. Then we have Battlecruiser Command. Notice it is basic Battlecruiser Command. Of course it is, it's a Tech level 7 ship. It's pretty much the first Battlecruiser you're going to be flying at this point, with a 7.5% increase to shield boost amount. Remember how I said that we were going to be shield tanking this ship? That's why, because with Battlecruiser Command 5, you're going to have 37.5% additional boost from your shield boosters. That's a lot of extra healing. There is no point armor tanking a Cyclone because you are ignoring one of its biggest strengths. Anyway, with that said and done, let's look at fitting this thing. If you're at all familiar with this channel, you saw this fit coming a mile off. It's a Captain Benzie special, up close and personal brawling build, so we're going to be using torpedoes. Because of course we are. Why wouldn't you use torpedoes when a full brace is dirt cheap, because no one seems to like these things, and they have astonishing DPS, 188 DPS a piece. 6 of them there is giving us a total of 1,129 DPS just from these. That's pretty powerful if you ask me. Yeah, the range is a little bit limited, 14.85 kilometers, but that shouldn't matter all that much since we are actually fairly agile ourselves. We can maintain that range quite comfortably. If we have a look at the explosion velocity as well, thanks to the bonuses we're getting from the Cyclone, that is a really fast explosion velocity. You're going to be able to catch some of the smaller, faster moving ships in the game quite comfortably and apply that damage thoroughly. Now, if we take a look at the low slots, because we've got a decent amount of power grid here, I've gone for a Gist C-type large shield booster. Yes, a large shield booster, and you can see we're getting 1,634 shield boost amount of this every activation. That is just an insane amount of shield boost. That is courtesy of the Cyclone's bonuses itself and the fact that in the rig slots, I've gone for a core defense charge economizer for an additional 30% shield boost amount. Now yeah, okay, we are not capacitor stable at all. If you leave everything running, we've got 3 minutes and 4 seconds. However, if I were to unfit the shield booster here, you will see we are completely capacitor stable. That means if we're not using the shield booster, we are stable and recharging. So let's pop that back on. Ultimately, if you're not actively using the shield booster, you are surprisingly capacitor stable with this ship, which means you just activate it when you need it. When you're done, you switch it off and you will recharge your capacitor back up. How cool is that? To increase our tanking capabilities, I've gone for 2 Gist C-type adaptive invulnerability fields. These will help us be a little bit more tanky. Some of the damage we take is going to be reduced by these. Some of it is going to be reduced by the fact that we are fairly fast moving as well. Corellum C-type medium afterburner, 203% flight velocity adjustment there on top of our 290 meters per second standard makes this surprisingly agile. For a battlecruiser, you are semi-speed tanking against large targets. So if you're orbiting any turret battlecruisers, you're going to be taking less damage just from the speed that you're able to put out. Finally then, for the low slots, a Python C-type ballistic control system just increases our DPS that little bit further, giving us that full 1,129 DPS. That is just through that ballistic control unit. You could swap this for a capacitor battery if you're a bit worried, like if you're going up against something that you reckon is going to be draining your capacitor a lot. You could put a battery here, but I really don't see why. I think the ballistic control unit is more than adequate. You'll also notice we've gone for 2 Vricalarcus medium energy Nosferatus. This does require you to have engineering skills trained pretty high. On the character I'm using here, I have 554 in both Battlecruiser engineering and in Cruiser engineering, and the reason that's important is that Battlecruiser and Cruiser engineering at Expert 4 and Expert 5 reduce the power grid requirements of your high slots, which means that you have more power grid for everything else. Ultimately, again, use the QR code that I put at the beginning of this section to check if this is using the Suite fitting app to check if this is a fit that you can pull off using your current gear. If you've just hit Tech level 7 and you're looking at this as a new ship, then yes, going for C-type modules and full meta level 8 gear around the board is probably going to is going to tank out your power grid really, really quickly. As such, play around with Suite, consider swapping things down to say Republic Fleet torpedoes, maybe Upir or Imperial Navy Nosferatus. You may have to, at Tech level 7, just go with a medium shield booster for the time being until your skills are high enough. Yes, you can power grid rig for this, but I don't really recommend it. Going back to the mid slots, we only have 1 stasis webifier. Is that going to be a problem? Well, no, not really. The Cyclone that we're building here is aimed at Tech level 10 small and medium anomalies and Tech level 7 specials. Ultimately, that should be enough. 1 webifier should slow a target sufficiently for your torpedoes to still be able to apply their damage pretty well. You don't really get many of those sort of orbit at 20Ks and do serious amount of damage, like little frigates and things in that kind of content, so we don't have to worry about it too much. And if someone jumps into you and tries to scram you with a frigate, well, yeah, you can still hit them as long as they're within range. If they're out of range, I would still be running because you're a Tech VII battlecruiser, but hey, if you do lose the ship, at least it's fairly cheap. Looking at our rigs then, I've gone for the standard DPS setup of a Califaction Catalyst and a Bay-loading Accelerator. Standard DPS boosts there nicely. We've then gone for a Core Defense Charge Economizer, which is part, as I mentioned earlier, how we're getting that frankly ludicrous 1634 shield boost per activation. For the engineering rigs, I've gone for a semiconductor memory cell and a capacitor control circuit in order to help me maintain capacitor stability. Below that, though, a polycarbon engine housing. This is just so I can turn and just, kind of get into range a little bit faster. You could go for auxiliary thrusters. They're probably the better option of the two, but they cost an awful lot more. Ultimately, the auxiliary thrusters 3 cost more than the rest of the ship, which is just madness when you think about it that way. This one you could swap out for something like a targeting rig if you wanted to lock onto things a little bit faster, and if you wanted to go for the power grid rig route in order to sort of get this kind of fitting with lower skills, it would be this rig that you swap for something like an auxiliary power grid rig. Again, use the Sweet Fitting app to check what type of auxiliary power grid rig you need. You could just put a 3 in there, cross your fingers and hope it's enough, but I would check before you buy. Try it before you buy it is my motto. That's why I love using Sweet. Anyway, that is the ship in total. A Tech Level 7 battlecruiser putting out 1,167 DPS with a pretty solid defense there, 39,167. We're nippy at 290 meters per second. We've got a good capacitor, even with the large shield booster. If we accidentally leave that running, we still have 3 minutes and 4 seconds before we run out of capacitor, and as I said, ultimately the aim is not to leave it running. For a nano core here, I've just gone dirt cheap. Ultimately, this is a Cyclone Angel Veteran core. These things are really easy to buy on the market. You can reverse engineer them nice and easily yourself. Check out my nanocore video for more information on how to do that. And if you're serious about flying the Cyclone, pick yourself up a nanocore out of the Concorde Pass. Whether that's the Ascension or the Clear Skies or whatever nanocore you have is probably going to be better than the one I've got here. You're going to be looking primarily for things like missile torpedo damage, missile torpedo range and damage application is always going to be a nice thing to have. You can look at shield as well. If it's bonuses to shield, that's always going to be a good thing. And flight velocity too, because the Cyclone is surprisingly nimble. Having bonuses to that on your nanocore can be pretty beneficial. Anyway, so that is the Cyclone, a Tech 7 ship that will carry you all the way up to Tech Level 10 content, and will clear Tech Level 10 content, as I'm going to showcase now. Continuing the theme with these battlecruiser videos, I'm in an Angel 10 small anomaly. I'm doing this simply so that we can showcase these side by side. If you're considering whether or not to go for the Hurricane, or the Harbinger, or the Drake, for example, you can have a look at those videos and compare the footage at the end to the footage here, and it will showcase it in action. We're coming to the end of Wave 3. It is worth noting you can take this up to Tech 10 mediums as well. It will quite happily clear those. Do be a little bit careful in the Blood Raider ones, but you should be okay otherwise. Also, Tech Level 6 and Tech Level 7 special anomalies, if you're cautious, can be done in this ship. Anyway, beautiful explosion there, which again sort of lags off screen annoyingly, and we're into the final wave of this anomaly. I lock onto all targets, I drop the Nosferatus onto the biggest one, in this case the Gist Typhoon, and I'm pretty much just going to orbit that Typhoon for the time being and shoot everything else that's in range, starting with the smaller ships, working my way up to the larger. So that Gisty Talwar 2 gets locked on with the Weber fire, then all 6 of my torpedoes take it out. And then the Gisty Slasher as well, you'll see that I've actually activated the Ballistic Control Unit. That pushes me over 1,400 DPS with this fit. That takes out these ships fairly quickly. You can see even things like a Slasher 2 Interceptor does take pretty good damage from those medium torpedoes. It's not an issue. I say it's not an issue. It's not an issue for the medium torpedoes to take these out. To me, it's a little bit of a personal issue that medium weapons are still so good at taking out frigates and destroyers, but hey, that's another topic for several other videos that I've already done. Gisty Talwar 2, it's about to go down there. I've stacked my weapons poorly and activated them sort of all in sync rather than in counter step, which means I massively overkilled that and wasted a load of time. But hey, if you are going to split your modules like this, countersync them. Activate the first one, then activate the second one when the first one's a third of the way through, then activate the third one when it's the first one's 2/3 the way through, so that they're sort of on a three of them cycling in sort of a countersync. That way, if something dies, then the next one is not going to fire, it's going to lock onto a new target and start firing, rather than here I'm launching 6 shots when only 1 shot is actually required against something sometimes. But hey, anyway, you can see things are going down pretty quickly, and we're now taking out a Gisty Hound. Again, very small ship, quite fast moving, yet the torpedoes do not struggle at all. Now on to the Cyclone. You'll also notice I'm just really not taking much damage at all. Like, I'm sitting now 83% on the 81% there on shield, 85% on the capacitor, 86%. We're comfortably well above 80% on both. I can now, you see, I activate the ballistic control unit and the shield booster at the same time, and I don't even drop below 70% capacitor. The second activation of the shield does put me down below that, but then immediately the Nosferatus pull me right the hell back up. It's just, you activate that shield booster when you need it, and then just turn it off when you're done. And again, is this the most effective and efficient way of doing Tech 10 content? No. But the fact that you can do it in a Tech 7 ship just means that for me, this is a 97, I think I paid Yatsuki 97 million for this, possibly less, I can't remember off the top of my head. Less than 100 million, definitely, for a Cyclone. It's a cheap ship. This fitting doesn't cost much either. We've stuck with a blue nanocore. This is all readily available pretty much at Tech Level 7. If you train your skills right, this ship will carry you through Tech Level 7 content while you're at Tech Level 7, and as you start skilling up, you can push all the way to Tech Level 10. You can do Tech Level 10 content in this as long as you have the right skills, and those skills aren't going to require you to be a Tech Level 10 player, which means you can do good level content in a easy to acquire ship, an early to mid-game vessel. That's the point I'm getting at here. Is it the most effective way once you're at Tech Level 10? No. Of course, you can go into something like a battleship and snipe from a long range and, do things much faster, but those ships cost you a lot more, and if you lose them to PvPers, it hurts you a lot more. This, on the other hand, it's a lot more fun for me. I get to actually play the game. I lock onto targets, I orbit the main one, but occasionally I have to change my orbit onto a different target to make sure I'm in range. I have to occasionally reactivate the stasis weather fire. I occasionally have to activate the shield booster. It's not exactly intensive by any stretch, but it's enough that it keeps me engaged with the game. And if I'm playing like this on live, then I can sit here and chat with people whilst I'm ratting, and I'm not just going to sort of, start things up and then put the phone down and go off and put the kettle on and watch YouTube. Although if I were going to watch YouTube, you know whose videos you should be watching, right? But yeah. It's fun. For me, this is a video game. It's all about having fun with the ships that you have and the ships that you enjoy. And if you like the Cyclone, well, rat with the Cyclone. Play the game using the Cyclone. You can take this into PvE and PvP. You can do this solo, you can do this fleet. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, and it's capable of doing that same tier of content. I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and I hope you folks do too. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Remember, any comment on YouTube does get entered into the chance to win a month of Combo Omega. Every week I'm giving one away, and 2 more to people on my Discord. Another big explosion that teleports out the way there. Thanks for watching, folks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.